Gordon Sammis reportedly has eyes on a new 2027 quarterback recruit, and this shift could have an impact on TCU football for years to come. Oh yeah, it's Locked On Horned Frogs. Play my music.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? I'm Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, host of your favorite one-stop shop for everything TCU athletics, Monday through Friday, but you know it better as the Locked On Horned Frogs podcast. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day every day, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, just bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets if you win. We close out today's episode with a call to TCU women's basketball. I think they are desperately in need of a signature victory before this season is over. But I want to start off with wholesale changes. I think that's what Gordon Sammis provides. And it starts off with the 2027 recruiting class and the eyes that the Horned Frogs have on quarterback Brice McCurdy. Now, if you've been paying attention to TCU recruiting, you'll know that they only have one quarterback. As a matter of fact, they only have one player. And that is Jerry Meyer III, who is committed to TCU right now. He's been committed to TCU before the Kendall Browse thing happened, before they got Gordon Sammis, and that timeline is extremely important. It's one that we've talked about before. It's one that we'll talk about at length on another podcast, maybe tomorrow, right? It may be as early as tomorrow. But it appears that since Gordon Sammis has come around, he doesn't have his eyes on Jerry Maguire, or not Jerry Maguire, on Jerry Meyer. Right? He doesn't have his eyes on him. Gordon Sammis has his eyes on Brice McCurdy. Gordon Sammis has his eyes on a new quarterback for 2027. And this got my brain thinking, is this just a McCurdy versus Meyer thing? I don't think that it is. I think that this is a way that Sammis views the quarterback position thing. That's what I believe it is. Now, I was reading Horned Frog Blitz, and there was one sentence in an article discussing how they're ratcheting up the pressure in pursuing Brice McCurdy that stood out more than anything else. And I've kind of already teased it. But the sentence was, Sammis also has a say in who he wants at quarterback, and it appears McCurdy is that guy. That sets the tone for everything else that I'm about to tell you today. Let me read it one more time, and this is a direct quote from Horned Frog Blitz. Sammis also has a say in who he wants at quarterback, and it appears that McCurdy is that guy. If that doesn't tell you they're prioritizing McCurdy over Meyer, I don't know what will. When you discuss the idea of pursuing this quarterback, it's not just about wanting him or them wanting you. Sometimes you'll get a 2-quarterback class, right? Depends on how you're looking at it. But a lot of times there's either a clear separation in rankings and things of that nature, or they're 2 extremely evenly valued quarterbacks. This is not either one of those. Are McCurdy and Meyer close in rankings? 100%. You look at Meyer, he is 103 in the state. He's 65 nationwide as a quarterback. You look at McCurdy, he is 94 in the state. He's 51 as far as quarterback nationally. So they're relatively close. Both 3-star guys. 24/7 has an 86 grade for McCurdy, 85 grade for Meyer. So they're razor thin as far as that goes. But that sentence right there does not tell me that they are viewed equally. It doesn't. It does not tell me that they are viewed equally by Gordon Sammis specifically. And he should have a say in who his quarterback's going to be. If he wants McCurdy, and McCurdy wants to be here, which it sounds like it's increasing. I'm going to give you some more quotes in a little bit to prove that. But it sounds like if McCurdy wants to be here and Gordon Sammis has his eye on that is my guy, this is a no-brainer. You make it happen. You make it happen, and honestly, it will probably lead to Jerry Meyer leaving. And that's okay. That's okay, because if you got your guy, all of this is a crapshoot. All of this is guesswork. Nobody knows how this player is going to react. There's 3 stars that are better than 5 stars. There's 5 stars that end up being absolute bust, right? We don't talk about that a lot on the collegiate level, but there's absolute bust who were 5 stars. So it doesn't mean everything. It's about identifying your guy. And if your guy didn't work out, your guy just didn't work out. You eat that and you move on. But this is something that I think is Really fascinating because the two-way street that I talk about applies for TCU and Meyer, and it applies for TCU and McCurdy. Right now, TCU has an offer out and they have a commitment from Meyer. That is the epitome of a two-way street. But it's reported, this is from the same article, reported Meyer might be wavering. Meyer might be wavering a little bit in thinking about going to South Carolina. That's okay. You're not going to be overly hurt because Meyer is not the guy you have your eye on. May I say it again? Sammis has a say in who he wants as a quarterback, and it appears McCurdy is that guy. This is not simply they're recruiting multiple quarterbacks. You never stop recruiting. Even when you get a commitment, you never stop recruiting. But it sounds like even if Meyer is on the table, the preference is McCurdy from at least one person, and that one person is the offensive coordinator. I know that Dykes is an offensive-minded coach and things, but I would be, if I had to guess, getting your quarterback, actually with Sammis being an offensive line coach, it may be an offensive line, having an offensive line background, it may end up being a little even, but the offensive coordinator saying, this is my guy, that goes a long way. It goes a long way, and you can tell in the way that they are recruiting McCurdy. This is what he said because they were at Top Target Day on Sunday. McCurdy says, they're recruiting me pretty heavily. I'd say I'm a top priority for them right now. Cool. Even if you want to say that's just how it's supposed to feel, you want to make everybody feel like a top target. If you're a tough one to convince, I accept that, and I appreciate the challenge. So when asked about where does TCU fall on the list, are they rising up the list? McCurdy says this. Now, this is not, in my opinion, something that can be disputed. This is pure opinion and feeling from the only person who feeling actually matters. Ask if TCU is moving up. McCurdy says, yes, they have. Them coming down with all three coaches really meant a lot to me. And I would say they're way up there. Two-way streets. McCurdy is reportedly, Meyer is reportedly wavering. The whole South Carolina Kendall Browse of it all has him saying he doesn't know. He hasn't decommitted. I don't think he's even taken a visit to Columbia. But reportedly, he's wavering. That two-way street, both sides are not moving at the same speed. One's at 45, one's at 30. Meanwhile, it seems like people are just picking up their speed when you look at the McCurdy and TCU two-way street. Gordon Sammis, Sonny Dykes, Brad Robbins, all are heavily pursuing McCurdy. Meanwhile, McCurdy is saying, I like this school more and more than I used to. We're going to talk about the beyond just this recruiting class aspect of it in segment 2. We're going to talk about that in segment 2. But when looking at merely the comparison between a McCurdy and a Meyer, these two M's are really getting me, huh? But between McCurdy and Meyer, this to me represents a huge shift because you're changing philosophy. And when you're changing philosophy, your offensive coordinator saying, this is my guy means a lot, especially at quarterback. He's essentially telling you, this is the quarterback that I need to run my offense. It's not even so much about talent. It's not even so much about fit. It's not so much about talent. It's more about fit. And it sounds like Brice McCurdy, who's coming in from Waco, right? Waco Robinson, I believe it is. He's somebody who fits the vision that Gordon Sammis has for his offense, and that's all you could ask for. That's all that I think matters. That's my personal opinion. Now, I'll give you what my guy Ross Jackson at Locked On Saints calls a little bit of land yap, right? When discussing the facilities and things of that nature, McCurdy says, I loved it. I love the facilities. I love the new staff. That's important, but we're not going to focus on that right now. I love the new staff, and it really surprised me a lot. What stood out to me was the recovery rooms. I've been to a lot of campuses, and none of them have a snow room like that. I think the whole process they have with the car wash after practice and recovery after that, nutrition is just amazing. I really think that these facilities that TCU has put in are going to be phenomenal recruiting tactics. There aren't places that have that. That is state of the art. That is one of a kind. To be able to bring that into play, that's going to get you. Think about it like an apartment. You go into your apartment, everybody has a fridge, right? I assume that 90% of the apartments you've ever went into had a fridge. Just going to leave that 10 out there in case it didn't. Everybody's fridge ain't the same. Everybody's fridge ain't the same. I got a fridge that has a water disposal, right? Or whatever you call it, water filter, excuse me, right? You get the push there, you get the water, you get the ice, you get all of that. Then you have some fridges where I got a fridge that doesn't have it. I got fridges that are top and then freeze on the bottom. I got some where it's just the standard door, and then you have the freezer up top. Then you have the side-by-side fridge. Everybody has fridges. Everybody has facilities. Every facility is not the same. And sometimes when you have that extra gadget, when you have that water filter where you can just push and water goes into your cup, people become enamored with things like that, right? I've seen apartments with USB ports in the freaking bathroom or in the kitchen or in some wall. So you don't have to have a plug. These little things, you can charge your phone without that plug. You don't need that. But these little amenities, they sway certain people. Having a snow room, to me, I gave small aspects, things that feel like, oh, why would you even need that? A snow room is going to be a great recruiting tactic for TCU because it's something that makes them different from their competitors. Now we move forward. We're going to take a look at the rest of Gordon Sammis and how I think wholesale changes could be on the way with Sammis as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Horned Frogs.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Number 1 ranked UConn dominated Tennessee 96-66, turning a halftime tie into a historic win and avenging last season's loss by delivering the largest margin in the rivalry's history. AZ Fudd had 27 points and Sarah Strong added 26 as the Huskies remain perfect on the season, reminding everyone why they are the reigning national champions. In the Big Ten, number 2 UCLA rolled past number 8 Iowa 88-65, powered by 22 points from Angela Dukelich and a huge advantage in the paint, staking their claim as a national threat. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. I'm extremely excited about this topic. I'd love to dive into the Discord and discuss it even more. Check out lockedonhornedfrogs.supercast.com. When I tell you that the mic cuts off, but the journey does not end, this is what I mean. Dive in to the Supercast, dive into the Discord, talk with me, talk with other fans, other viewers, right? Let's just have a TCU group chat that's exclusive to you and I. Now, as we move forward, also the details to that are in the bio or in the description below. As we move forward, Gordon Sammis, I think, is going to change TCU more than people even realize, because people think about Kendall Briles versus Gordon Sammis from a philosophy standpoint. And while that is the driving force, that is the biggest difference, I will not downplay it. It's not the only thing. The other part of it is personnel. We just talked about it with quarterback. What quarterback do you want to run your offense? I don't think quarterback in fit often gets talked about enough. I don't think people start talking about the style of player that you want at quarterback enough, right? Just, oh, yeah, you need a quarterback who's going to run your system. Duh, of course. But it doesn't stop there, right? Like, what about offensive tackle? Offensive guard? What if he likes thicker offensive linemen? You know, like this plays a part in how an offense is going to change, right? So if we're talking about a team that's going to run the ball a little bit more, what about those who prioritize lateral movement? There's different things you may want, different things you may try to get from a Gordon Sammis. And here's the thing to point out. It may take years to get there. You can't get everything right away. Think about it from your favorite professional football team. I think that's way easier to look at it. In pro sports, we look at an ascension as a normal part of getting a new quarterback staff, or an acclimation rather. But as we see an acclimation as being a normal part of getting a new coaching staff. People say, hey, man, you got to give him 2-3 years to really put his vision in. And maybe we think that way about head coaches on the collegiate level as well. But I think when we're talking about coordinators, as long as they're on the other side of the ball from the head coach, Most times it's that. Because if you have an offensive-minded head coach and you go get a defensive coordinator, you're probably going to change a lot. That's the level of change that I expect to see from Gordon Sammis. I don't know how much Sonny was talking to Garrett Riley and how much he was talking to Kendall Briles and how much input he was having. But what I can say is going from the Briles system last year to the Sammis system this upcoming year, it's too drastic of a change to expect a lot of similarities. Even if Sonny's going to come in and say certain things he likes, certain things he doesn't, he's the head coach. That's part of it. Even if his footprint or his fingerprints are going to be on the offense next year, it's still going to be drastically different because you went and got a guy who's an offensive line-minded coach. That's where his discipline lies, right? Offense and defense, they're like mixed martial arts, where there's so many different disciplines that make up this overall sport. You have a mixed martial artist, but he knows Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You have an MMA artist who knows kickboxing, Muay Thai. Muay Thai and kickboxing are so close, but so drastically different. You know, you have all of these different aspects, these different disciplines that make up what a mixed martial artist really is. And that's the way that I look at different sides of the ball, where as a run first guy, as an offensive line guy, you're not going to have a lot of spread. You're going to go more pro style. I may want a certain type of tight end to fit this system. I may have a system that needs me to have more tight ends than another, right? So if you're an 11 personnel versus 12 personnel offense, that's going to require more tight ends. Maybe I like my tight end to be able to flank out, be in a slot. I want him to be more of a receiver. But maybe I have an offense that wants a quarterback, or an offense that wants a tight end to catch, a tight end to block. They want to have two of those guys. Pay attention to that. You can't get it all in one offseason. You can't. You can go hit the portal and get all the guys you want, but you can't go get the 330-pound offensive tackle and the tight end that blocks and the running back that's a little bit bigger and the wide receiver who is going to do the dirty work. And the center, as well as everything you got to do on the defensive side of the ball and special teams. Like, it's difficult to do all of that in a matter of a season. So with that being the case, I expect Gordon Sammis to make huge changes. I do. I'm not even sure that Brice McCurdy is the last change we'll see at quarterback. I'll throw this out here and maybe I'll even get to it a little bit deeper tomorrow. I think I will. Either that or the Jerry Meyer aspect of it all. But let's throw this out there. Is Adam Schobel safe? Is Adam Schobel safe as the future? Everybody looks at this as a natural passing of the baton. You'll go from Hoover, then you have Jaden Craig for a year, a natural stopgap because he only has one season left. Then you go ahead and hand the baton off to Adam Schobel and let him run with it. Are we so certain that that's concrete? Are we? Because you have a new offensive scheme. How does Schobel fit there? Is that the guy they really think? I'm sure TCU felt like they had a steal with Jerry Meyer. Then Gordon comes in and says, that McCurdy kid, though, pretty good. That McCurdy kid y'all looking at, he's pretty good. He's actually the guy I want. He's what I think I can work with. And it does seem like they haven't been a priority. I forgot to mention that they went to his school right before having him come down for top target day. So it seems like they're heavily pursuing in trying to court this quarterback. Maybe that changes things for Adam Schobel. I don't know. We'll get into that in a little bit deeper tomorrow when it's not so much off the cuff. It's a little bit more thought out, a little bit more flushed out. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Just made the decision. We'll talk about that tomorrow, and we'll talk about Jerry Meyer either Friday or Monday, depending on how it goes. Heads up, Friday's episode will include Sarah Smith from KCEN. Had some things come up, so we had to move our episode to a little later in the week. She'll be here on Friday. So just heads up to look for that. I want you guys to know when she's coming on. I know there's so many everydayers who are here for Sarah. That being said, Gordon Sammis and his offense, schematically, philosophically, I don't know if I said schematically at first, but or personnel-wise, like all of that is going to come into play. And I think we need to be prepared to say this is not the full version of what Gordon Sammis is trying to do. This is not the full version of his dream. This is just a part of it. So maybe Brice McCurdy is the beginning of that. He couldn't do it really much for the 2026 class. You know, you could do a little bit, but not a lot. 2027 is where you finally get to get your pieces in there. And I hope that TCU has a strong year so that we can continue to see what that vision looks like. Because as much as we talked about Sonny Dykes, with Sonny Dykes goes pretty much the rest of the coaching staff, right? Like the what's called the security, couldn't get that out. The security is only as much as your head coach is there. So it'll be interesting to watch. I think that Gordon Sammis has a great scheme. I think he has a great change, something that TCU needs. And it's about filling it in with the players that you feel like make the most sense. So we'll move forward looking at TCU women's basketball now, because I think they need a signature victory. It's something I don't believe that the Frogs have in women's basketball. And it's something I think can not only benefit how they're viewed, but benefit how they think going into March Madness. Let's dive into that as we continue with Locked On Horned Frogs. Today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. And, tax season doesn't have to take over your life. I know you may not believe that right now, but I'm telling you, it really doesn't have to be something you do all day and just a draining affair. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. Go record a podcast, go play 2K26. I think that's the one that's out right now. Maybe it's 27. I don't know. I'm not a huge gamer. But with TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done by a trusted local expert, start to finish. No stress, no guesswork, handing it off. They take care of all the files. Maybe you're self-employed. That can be difficult to do your 1099s, right? Go ahead and hand it off to them. You mixing your 1099s with your W-2. I get it, right? They do too. And they make it easy for you. So when things feel difficult, you don't have to anymore. Just go ahead and go to TurboTax. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in, if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football. And honestly, the only thing that keeps me from bawling out my eyes right now is the fact that I know I can make a little bit of money. I can go out with a bang. I'll tell you what, if I make the wrong bets though, and football is over, you might not see me for a week. I might have to call that number. I got a problem, but you know what I'm saying? But it's okay. If I get these winnings using the Super Bowl 60, then I might just be set for the next couple of months. That's how beneficial that FanDuel can be for you. Super Bowl 60 is just giving you the best and special offers going up into the biggest game of the year. Whether you're booking a same game parlay for the last time or riding with an underdog, whatever it may be, FanDuel is there for you. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and you get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel.com. That's the official sportsbook partner of the Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Now, I think TCU women's basketball needs a signature win. And it won't be this game versus Houston. That just isn't what it's going to be, right? Like, Houston is not that kind of opponent to where you beat them and you feel like, oh, that's a statement win for me. I think TCU needs that. I think they could benefit from that, because the last 2 times that they've had the opportunity to do it, they fell short. Now, Houston is 1-9 in conference play. Texas Tech, 8-3, was 7-3 at the time, right? This, to me, is a get-back game. This is a get-right game. In a little bit, they'll be playing Baylor. In about a week, they'll be playing Baylor. That is a statement victory. You almost need to beat Baylor. You play Baylor 2 times. You play West Virginia once more, right? Like, you already played them once. You play them one more time. You got to win at least 1 to 2 of those games. I mean, you really want to win all 3. I think you got to win 2, but we spoke about yesterday how there is no real separation. It's a logjam. It's a 4-team logjam between 4 extremely talented teams. TCU needs to have a statement victory as they go into, in my opinion, they need to go into March Madness with a statement win, because they don't have one this year. They definitely don't have one in conference play. You could say they have one against North Carolina State. I would say that brings up the age-old argument of where a team was when you played them versus where they are now. I don't think that anybody has any sort of consistency on how to value that. I don't think they do. Oh, man, you beat this team that was in the top 10. But now, fast forward 3 weeks, we realize they're not who we thought they were. They're 20th. But if they're 26th, do we say, okay, now it really doesn't count? It's a bad game. You faced this team that was unranked early in the season, and you beat them. It was a close game. We didn't think it was supposed to be that close. We probably even knocked you for being that close against that team. Meanwhile, they done went on a 8-game winning streak, and they're creeping into the top 15. How do we value that? That's the difference between North Carolina State and West Virginia. And in a way, maybe they cancel each other out. But I don't think that West Virginia was a signature win for TCU, because at that time, the respect that West Virginia was owed was still owed. They finally got paid, but at first, they were owed the credit. And I was trying to tell people, hey, don't sleep on West Virginia. If you remember this, you flashback, don't sleep on West Virginia. I'm telling you right now, they're a quality team. They're a team that's going to give TCU a run for their money. Do not be overlooking them because they are a really strong ball club, and you end up needing a last-second three, something that felt overall miraculous to even knock down. I'll be honest with you. Didn't feel like it should have happened at all, but it was a great way to end this game. That could have been a signature victory if West Virginia was 22nd in the country at the time. But at that time, they were, I think, maybe 26th, 27th, as far as just, they weren't in the top 25, but they had the second or third most votes added of the others. So they're like the second ranked honorable mention, I believe they were. I think they were 27. So when I'm looking at that West Virginia win, if you beat them again, signature, I think it can be, depending on how you do it. I think it depends on how you do it, because you're also still a big betting favorite, or you be a big favorite in that game. Right now, you're 14, they're 22. It's a decent size gap. I think you need to beat a team like Baylor, where Baylor's 15. You beat Baylor. I don't care if it's close. I don't care if it's ugly. I don't care how it happens. It's a signature victory. You're 14, they're 15. North Carolina State's out of the picture now. So I don't care that they were top 10 at that time. I don't. It's just so difficult because you don't have that win. It was supposed to be Ohio State. You lose. It was supposed to be Texas Tech. You lose. It felt like these things were being built up. I believe right now, for most people, I like to put West Virginia in, but I feel like for most people, Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU are looked at as the class of the Big 12 women's basketball wise. I think West Virginia should be in there. Hopefully people are putting there and I'm just wrong. I'm okay with that. But I think it should be a Big Four as more so than just a Big Three. But right now, I feel like even beating West Virginia feels like, I don't know, to some. So that's what I mean when I say signature. You need something that's undeniable. Secondly, because not just how you're viewed, for benefit of your team, I think beating a squad that is going to be a true player in the March Madness could do a lot for your team. Because TCU men's basketball, them getting close against teams that we didn't think they'd be close against, confidence booster. Facing one of the top 10 teams, top 15 teams, and only losing by 5, 6, confidence booster. Because we have different expectations. But for the women, there's not a game that you don't think that the women could go in and win. There isn't one. There's not a team that you feel like they're going to be completely outclassed. There's no way they could beat that team, right? As far as just ranking-wise. Just throw a number. Maybe you feel like a specific matchup is bad for them, but if TCU played the number 4 ranked team in the country, I'm not sitting here thinking no way they could beat them. I'm just not. And I don't know who the number 4 ranked team is right now. I think it's either Texas or LSU, because I think that's 4 versus 5, and they play on Thursday. I watch the ads, okay? I know some things. But to me, it's like a shooter. Right now, TCU is a shooter that just is in a slump. And sometimes when you're in that slump, you just need to see the ball go through the hoop. Because it's one thing to be battle testing and say you're playing all these teams and you're playing close. That's good for schools that don't think they're going to be up there. Once you're already in the upper echelon, playing teams close and losing is not a confidence booster. I'm not saying it's a confidence killer, but it's not a confidence booster. So now TCU has been close versus Ohio State, but lost. They were close versus Texas Tech, but lost. If that trend continues and you keep being close but losing, that's not going to build much. I believe that they believe they could play anybody and beat anybody. But sometimes it feels good to know. It feels good to know you could do it. So, in my opinion, this is a big part of the season. You need to be able to prove it. You need to see that ball go through the hoop. You need to just beat a team that's going to be a real player. You fell short versus Ohio State. You fell short versus Texas Tech. But Baylor is right on the horizon. Just got to get through Houston first. Now, in the meantime, in between time, we'll be back tomorrow to discuss Adam Schobel's future at TCU. Until next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.